Welcome back. When we purchase clothes, do we stop for a moment to think about how people who are blind are able to tell the difference between colors, texture, and the size from the tags? Well, Angela from Hisi Studio has come up with an all-inclusive solution: tags in Braille. Interesting, right? Let's take a look.
People who are blind have been left out of the fashion and design industry. But Hisi Studio is bridging this gap through the use of braille printing on clothes for inclusivity.
We work on fashion and design. We're looking at how visually impaired people can be included in fashion. We're trying to accommodate their needs to make sure they have wholesome sensorial experiences in clothing, in space design, and in galleries and museums.
While working on her postgraduate project, Wanjiku saw a chance to change this. Using her knowledge of Braille, she created unique fashion pieces with printed Braille messages on the clothes.
The idea of Hisi Studio was born out of my undergraduate project, and I was trying to answer the question, how do visually impaired people interact with fashion? Throughout my life, as I grew up in Thika, I have interacted with visually impaired students, either in music and drama festivals, and even in church outreach. So I was wondering about what they would need for their use in fashion, how they would go about shopping and dressing up. I was a fashion student, and therefore that's how the question came up. So as I answered the question, I was able to now create the clothing line, and then later on I learned Braille because the line got a lot of attention and appreciation, especially from visually impaired people who had not interacted with adaptive clothing before. So the interest led us from a school paper, into a business.
Since fashion should be felt, seen and valued, she designed adaptive clothing that blind people can read through touch.
Our first point of impact has always been what I like to call the joy of inclusion. And we experience this with especially our visually impaired users who buy our products for the first time, and there's so much excitement after they receive the item, and they can read the braille and it resonates, and there's a QR code and they can hear the size and the color of the garment. So there's such joy around that, and I know it's healing a part of them.
She also made tactile playboards to help them learn braille while playing.
So in future we plan to have more play events, doing a lot more braille play, braille games as well, card games, getting more people to learn about braille, even getting children who are blind and visually impaired to compete in games around braille. You have Scrabble for your sighted users. What that would look like for visually impaired children, that would also be fun. We're also keen on working with other persons with disability, expanding our collections to serve other people with disabilities, from amputees to the hearing impaired in our branding. So we're keen on doing that. And lastly, in our manufacturing, we'd love to get more persons with disability, learn about beadwork and be part of our processes.
However, Wanjiku says that resources needed in the whole process are expensive, making the end product costly.
So currently our price is slightly higher than your mass market product, and this is informed by the quality of products we use to ensure that the braille stays. We've worked on it for quite a long time, and that is reflected in our prices. But we're keen on, as we grow, we'll be able to reduce our prices with economies of scale. So that's something we would do in the future. But in the meantime, we set aside 10% of our earnings to give to programs, braille literacy programs in schools. We've also donated white skins. So that is how we balance out the pricing and the market we're serving. We have our clothes, our adaptive clothing on the rack. We have the circles or dots art piece that was in a gallery last year, and it was looking at how blind people could be more accommodated in museums and gallery spaces where everything is prohibitive for touch, that these do not touch signs and things are behind glass, and the experience for blind people is not always the best. Then lastly, we have our pegboard, our braille pegboard, and it's a play item that helps us continue our efforts in advocacy. We are teaching people how to do and write braille, and in the moments we are able to have many reflections with the people we interact with. So it's been a reflective moment for us to see the impact we're having, and we hope we'll continue to pay forward. So I think of it as, like a ripple effect that will carry on. So people learn from us and they'll go implement it in different fields, whether it's hospitality, in aviation, wherever else they'll go where we cannot reach. I know that message will go on.
In her desire to upscale in her inclusivity journey, Wanjiku has written poems in Braille and created tools to help people who are blind live with dignity and independence.
Disability is often a taboo topic in many African countries, including ours, and our traditions haven't always been supportive of persons with disability. They've been ostracized and stigmatized. So the topic is still not very easy to bring up, and with the board and the element of play, we're able to now bring up such a heavy topic in a way that's fun, and we get to the weighty matters later as we interact with our audience. So the board is our gateway to inclusion conversations. Then with the art piece, Circles or Dots, it's an inclusion poem, and we're trying to look at reserving spaces for blind people. And now the element of please touch that is on our piece, that is different from what you find in your art gallery in the museum. Yes.
She shares the challenges she faces as a young innovator and entrepreneur.
As a young business, we faced a couple of hurdles. First was in establishing our brand, where we had a hard time figuring out our intellectual property registration, but quickly we were able to get support from the ITC. And then the challenge that also faces young businesses like mine is with finances. We've had limited finances, having to fund ourselves, and therefore it has slowed our progress. And we hope that as we receive grants and get in new partners, we'll be able to even expand our collection range to achieve the goal we had shared about developing more products for persons with disability outside blind people.
Wanjiku calls on partners, curators, and schools to join in by organizing workshops to raise awareness and support people with disabilities.
We would love to get collaborators for our projects, galleries and museums that are willing to set up an exhibition that is accessible to blind people. We would welcome any curators who would want to work with us. We'd also love to work with schools and take around our board on workshops to just get students learning about inclusion and disability inclusion. Our future will be shaped by what we teach our children, so that would be interesting to work with. We'd also love to welcome corporates who would like to have their DEI values reflected in what their branding is and what they teach their workers and employees. Our other point of impact has been when we've donated wideskins to children who are blind, and just seeing them start off their journey in orientation and mobility, and we know we're setting them up for independence and a dignified life in future. Another point of impact has been with our sighted users, because they end up in spaces where people will ask them, what are the dots on your t-shirt? What are the dots on your clothes? And they end up in conversations. I too end up in such conversations, and I know they will have an impact with the people we're talking to. We have people reconsidering how they're doing their business, how their space is accessible. We've also had people who've written to me directly that they've learned sign language. They're taking up an interest in volunteering at a school nearby. So I know it's going on and creating so much lovely impact around us. Yeah.
Hisi Studio plans to teach more people Braille and involve people with disabilities in expanding the collection.
It started out as a design business, but we noticed that there was a gap in advocacy. So a challenge for us as a clothing business is that our point of sale conversation isn't as straightforward as most other businesses have it. We first have to educate our users about what our product is, what the Braille is. So our sales conversion has a longer winding road, but it's still very satisfactory. I would really stand on the theme for this year. We are the ancestors, given that we are stewards of the future. So what we do now, our actions will carry on into the future. If we do desire an inclusive future, it has to start with us. There's a phrase I like. It says, inclusion starts with I, but includes us. So it's not enough that Hisi Studio gets to do this for the blind. other people can join us to work with other groups of persons with disability to make sure that our future is truly secure and inclusive. We get to leave a legacy of inclusion. What we do today, our actions today, contribute to the future. And therefore, we should be very careful with what we do, very mindful and intentional with what we put out.
We now take a short break, but we'll be right back with more. Don't go anywhere.
Differently abled, differently.